I want to talk to you about a project that I did last year at the Museum of London. I mean, we hear a lot about historical collections, and historically the formulation, I guess, of the Muslim subject has often been absent or peripheral within European heritage collections. Within the context of London, Muslims make up more than 1/10 of the capital's populations, but this was not reflected adequately, I felt, in the Museum of London's collections, which is why I sought to sort of design and coordinate the What Muslims Wear project to address this. So the way I designed What Muslims Wear, which I'll go into explain a little bit further, is almost as a creative intervention in the museum space. I felt that the museum was a very sort of, in some ways, a hierarchical, very static space, and this was a way for me to, I guess, change something in the space, but do it in a way that we were working with loads of people outside of the museum. Otherwise, I don't think it would have been a project that was, well, it wouldn't have been a project that was genuinely rooted in sort of the living experiences of Muslims. So What Muslims Wear, I guess, ended up being a project working with young Muslim Londoners across London to collect 6 full outfits to be acquisitioned into the Museum of London's dress collections. So where did we start? This is basically where we started. We have, well, in the Museum of London we have about 20,000 fashion items, fashion objects in the collection, and within the collection this was effectively what existed to represent Muslim dress in London. So I'm sorry about the photograph, it's literally because of how rubbish the gallery is angled there. But as you can see, and there's an illustration as well over there, but it is a niqab, an abaya, and a headscarf on top of that, and that outfit was collected in the year 2000, so already quite outdated in so many respects. But that is not to say that that outfit isn't relevant to so many people today, even till today. So, as you can see, the odds are still, I mean, minuscule. You have 20,000 items and you have sort of 3 or 4 objects representing Muslim dress in London. I guess, I mean, why am I going on and on about dress? Dress is something, for Muslims anyway, it comes up in the media a lot. It's usually used to, as a shorthand to stereotype Muslims, and it's often dress that comes into people's minds when we're trying to use a shorthand way of understanding what Muslims are today, especially Muslim women. So starting with this, I guess, which is just a couple of outfits, so a couple of objects, we really wanted to try and make sure that the collection that we were going to collect would represent the diversity of Muslims, the fact that, you know, Muslim women don't just wear that, and the fact that there's no Muslim men reflected in the collection at all. So we were conscious that we had very limited time and very limited space, and that we wouldn't be able to do justice to all that is out there. London is huge, and you know, an incredible home to loads of diverse Muslim communities. And you know, I was under a lot of pressure thinking, how are we going to actually do this in this box, basically? You know, imagine capturing all that is in this room and putting it into that box. It's basically impossible, isn't it? So with that in mind, we set ourselves some goals. We knew that we wanted to make sure that the collection is updated. We have a sense of what's going on in terms of Muslim dress in London in 2014 at least. We wanted to take things that would add value to the collection, and we wanted everyone involved in the project to take away something from the project too. So there was a huge emphasis on young Muslim Londoners who were involved in the project to develop skills, to have a huge role in the curatorial decision-making process, and to be real sort of critical friends in the project. So they said loads of things that our curators weren't happy with, and we had to respond to that. And I hope we did. So I mentioned the project. This is effectively an illustration capturing the timeline of the project. So we talked a lot about, sorry, one second. I mentioned the creative intervention. So as a museum space, as I mentioned, decisions are made in a certain way. You have certain people who are deciding what should be collected. How do we represent a community within the museum space who are not actually reflected in the museum space at the moment? How do we engage them in a genuine way? What I tried to do is introduce a few creative workshops where we were inviting a group of young Muslim Londoners where they were able to come. They were basically having lots of fun, thinking about why we dress the way we do, what sort of things influence us, and this was young Muslim Londoners from South Asian, African, revert backgrounds, so they had all sorts to say about why we dress the way we do. They did a series of creative workshops with artists Fourth Wall Creations, who are from a theatrical design background and who designed and facilitated a series of sessions where we set out to figure out how we can update the collection. We worked with illustrators, one of my kind, who just walked in, and they captured a lot of our discussions, a lot of our ideas in the process. So we were really trying to make this a really sort of fun, interactive, informal sort of process where people can relax and really talk about things as they want. So all the workshops, we were recording them, we were capturing them, and we were constantly asking, what are we trying to say? What is the story? What does each object we're trying to collect say? What are we trying to say about us, and what are we trying to say about all of the communities that we're trying to represent in that room, in the workshop space? Sorry, I should explain. So a couple of the workshops here, you can see here, we had sort of workshops talking about the anthropology of dress. We had oral history training. We were doing some design workshops about sort of like what would a Muslim superhero wear, or what would, I don't know, a Muslim fashion designer create, and constantly come back to and reflecting on what the story is. So as I mentioned, we were trying to constantly involve non-museum voices in this curatorial process, and we did that in a couple of ways. This image here is a picture of a panel discussion we had. So this panel discussion was where I invited a series of Muslim sort of professionals, I guess, who are in the business of representing Muslims in so many different ways. So they are visual artists, like Hannah Habibi, who's actually in our exhibition today, performers like Munira Rashida, who's going to be performing this evening, actually. We had a journalist who is a producer and a presenter at Islam Channel, and ethical fashion designer as well. So these are all guys, all people who are constantly reflecting on these questions in their day-to-day lives, in their professional life, and working on that. I wanted to involve people from across different fields. So the discussions we had here were quite key in framing the thinking for the rest of the project. We tried to answer some really important questions such as, what is Islamic fashion today? Should we even be calling it Islamic fashion if we are sourcing our clothes from places like Oxford Street? What cultural influences inform our dress in London? Why is the focus always on women? And all of this is illustrated live, as you can see there, and supported the content that went on to design this booklet right here, which you could pick up in the library, and which summarizes all of our findings in a much more comprehensive way than I have the time to go into at the moment. As well as the workshops and the panel discussions and the live illustrations, we also had a field research day. This was one of my favorite things to do as part of the project. This was us going even further out of the museum to try and gather information as to what we should be collecting. So the field research day was when we trained our young Muslim sort of volunteers in oral history training. They were able to go into, they went to Whitechapel, basically, Whitechapel Market. For those of you who are local to us, that's a big deal. I love Whitechapel Market. Where project participants were able to sort of engage with people in the process of sourcing their modest dress, talking to stall holders, talking to why, what sort of trends are in, and just talking to passers-by about what's going on. And a couple of the quotes that we found are captured here, and I'll just read a few out as well. So I like this quote because I think it really captures the shift in how Muslim dress has changed over the past 50 years. My mum used to wear sari and cover her hair with sari, but now she wears a headscarf. And another one we thought was funny was, I think I wear my beard because it's fashionable, shabby chic. And the other one that I think a lot of girls related to, especially I guess people like me who do go into central London every morning wearing a headscarf. I don't feel self-conscious wearing hijab into our hamlets, but when I go to the city where I'm working, I feel like I'm the only one. So, as you can see, we were collecting loads of different information, but we were still struck with the very crippling and scary decision of what is that we're going to finally collect. Who are we going to ask to donate an outfit, and how are we going to actually do that? So there were several ideas thrown about how we should do this. We were thinking about organising the collection so that we explore how Muslim dress has changed from first generation Muslim migrants to second generation to third generation. But we eventually found out that this immediately left out the very crucial story of the revert convert Muslim community in London, and some of our participants were from that community, so they were immediately like, okay, we're not in that story, so we're not going to accept that. So we also looked at the Muslim family. We thought about, okay, what do our grandparents wear, what do our parents wear, what do we wear, and how does that operate? And that was, again, a very impossible model to work with because we were all from different generations, we were from different backgrounds. You know, Bangladeshi came over from different times to Algerians and so on. And eventually, the only way where we could capture this sort of complexity, this nuance, was to focus on, well, back to where we started, the lived experiences of Muslims, the activities that they do, the fact that, you know, we dress a certain way when we're praying, we dress a certain way when we're celebrating Eid, we dress a certain way when we're, well, in this case, performing. So that's the idea we had in mind when we approached our donors. So based on this, we started thinking about who we knew, who had already interacted with the project, and what we might ask them to donate. And we asked them to focus on a specific memory, so that each outfit was connected to the specific memory, so that the richness in the objects weren't lost. And I just want to state here, before I show you the final collection, it's still not a perfect collection. It's still not going to have everything we want in there. It's still not going to represent every single one of us in this room, but it's a start. Okay, so in the end, we ended up collecting 6 full outfits consisting of like sort of head-to-toe outfits, as and when our donors were able to give away their shoes. Some of them weren't too happy with that. Some others were much nicer about it, and we were compensating them. But this is one of my favourite outfits, but I probably say that about every single one of them now. This was donated by Hiba Mohammed, who was actually a project participant. And she donated this outfit because it reflects her experiences on her first day of university at the London College of Fashion. She's really sort of worried about going to a fashion school and, you know, having to put up with looking trendy and being trendy and designing clothes, but also looking modest and on trend as well. And I particularly like this outfit because if you see. If you really break it down, you could already see the shift between that first outfit I showed you, right from the first slide through till now. The abaya is still there, but it's been adapted. It's now a dress from Forever 21, you know, and it's still modest. She has the cardigan over it and the jumper over it, but she describes herself as an urban Muslim. She likes to be able to get around really quickly, and that's why she likes jersey fabric, and she needs to get to across London, and I think that really captured the essence of that busy sort of young Muslim Londoner. I'll just take you through maybe 1 or 2 more, and this is Zinnia's outfit. Zinnia took part in our panel discussion. She's the ethical fashion designer I mentioned, and she donated this as an outfit that she wore during a wedding, and she designed it herself actually. She put the design together and she sent it for someone else to sew and prepare. But she was very conscious that you know, She's from a Bangladeshi background, and a lot of South Asian outfits aren't very modest sometimes. You have the sari, which shows the midriff, and then you have, the parts of it are see-through, etc., etc. She really wanted to capture that sort of that sparkliness that you get in sort of South Asian dress, but put it in a way that is quite elegant and still adaptable and still modest. And she designed this specifically so that it's long enough, that there are trousers underneath. Loads of girls here would know what I mean by that. And she really kept her personality within it. It's still quite sparkly, and you can see the rhinestones in the headscarf. So she designed that. The other thing I want to mention is at this point in her life, she was becoming very conscious of sort of the ethics behind fashion, and as a fashion designer, she was trying to incorporate that more and more into her design. So this outfit also represents her increasing awareness about the unethical standards in the fashion industry, particularly being from a Bangladeshi background and having events like the Rana Plaza disaster happen. So she was becoming increasingly conscious of that, and this outfit represents that. I won't take you completely through the others. Like I said, all of the outfits are captured in the booklet here, which are available in the library. But you could see them in the booklet. And one final thing I would like to say, I don't think anyone knows this yet, especially the people who have been involved in the project, so this is exclusive. We are going to actually pick 2 outfits. I've been invited back to the Museum of London to work on a freelance basis to help them put together the display. So that display you saw right at the beginning of the presentation will actually be updated. So we'll be taking out the abaya and hopefully updating the display with 2 of the outfits here. And the 2 that have been picked is Fiona's outfit, this one, which you will learn all about again in the booklet, and Zingia's outfit. So thank you.